Hello, welcome back to Full Frontal Philosophy. We are still talking about talking, and today I want to talk about scientific realism. So let's say we don't want to believe in Platonism. We don't want to believe that there's a kind of information that is independent of reality or the world. We want a realist take on information and communication. So how would we communicate using only stuff that we actually find in reality? And it's not at all obvious how that works. Karl Popper, who was a great philosopher of science, proposed one of the first explanations of information as a scientifically quantifiable object. What he said was, it can be said that the amount of empirical information conveyed by a theory or its empirical content increases with its degree of falsifiability. Now, there's a little bit of, uncertainty in that already, and while he always believed that that was true, he never found a good formal theory to measure or even explain what that means. One thing Popper liked but didn't fully understand was Claude Shannon's theory of mathematical information. So in 1948, Claude Shannon proposed that there was a mathematical foundation for communication. What that proposed was that a message could be broken down and treated as an arbitrary amount of data. Now, what that means is still not entirely clear, but it is the foundation of what we have now in terms of a full communication system and digital data. So the thing about Shannon's theory is that communication is purely a matter of fidelity in transmission. So it doesn't establish the meaning of the communication or even the foundation of the information itself. It's a functional way of transmitting data and breaking data down and information down into packets that can be sent. That's why some people, Jeffrey Wicken is a good example, suggests referring to Shannon's entropy, which is its measure of information, as a measure of complexity rather than a measure of the actual communication. And that makes a certain kind of sense, but in a sense it then misses the point and it leaves us back where we began, which is, where does the foundation of information come from? How do we find some basis for the potential to actually communicate? And let's go back to our circle, and if we make a circle here, brand new Play-Doh, love it. Let's say I make a circle in sort of real stuff. Gives you a sense of what we mean by real stuff. So, let's say we take some Play-Doh and roll it out, and we turn that into a circle. So let's say that this is in fact a really good circle and not just a sort of circular Play-Doh bit. So the idea here is that if this is a circle, we could test that it's a circle. And if we had a ruler, say we wanted to test the circularness of it, we could measure it across in all places, and we would see that, again, if it was a really good circle, it would have the same diameter everywhere. And that would kind of force it into that circular shape. The problem here is that, let's say we accept that that's a test of its circularity, we still can't say where the circle is here. What part of this Play-Doh is the circle? Even where is it in this reality? I mean, even if we agree, everybody agrees that this is a circle, where is the circle? Let's say we wanted to find the circle in here. We could take it apart and we could look at all of these bits and try to see which bit is the thing that makes it a circle. And as you can see, not only did we not find the circle in the bits, we lost the circle when we tried to look for it. And the fact is that when we look at actual categories like circle or anything abstract, any attempt to fundamentally measure what that thing is in real terms will end up destroying the category. Either you end up with, first you end up with subcategories and they proliferate. In this case, we just ended up with pieces, and note that it's very hard to see how we would even make a circle out of this again. But it's instructive that once we have this taken apart, if we did want to make a new circle, what we want to do is bunch it up and actually just randomly reassign and randomly reorganize them. So we want to effectively disorganize whatever it was that we had, all the parts, and randomize their location in the bunch. And the more randomly I move this and shake it, the more circular it becomes. And actually, now that we have that, we can make a hole, and that is kind of a new circle. So not only is there no place where the category is in reality, in the real world, there's a kind of randomness to the establishment of that category in the first place. And all I mean to say here is that what we get out of scientific realism is a certain aspect or element of empirical knowledge that we can agree on for certain things, things that are measurable, things that are reasonably simple. But we don't get to the foundation of what the categories that are communicable are, or where those reside in the real world. There's still a thing that ends up being somewhere else. So this, in a sense, comes to a head when we get to biological information and DNA in particular. What we find is that we're looking for the foundation of life in the information about life and how life communicates across generations through either replication or sexual reproduction. And we come to this place that's still the same as the circle problem, which is that no matter how you break it up, you never find the foundation. So one way of putting it is that biologically relevant information is more akin to meaning than to entropy. This type of information can be quantified by applying theoretical informational concepts to aligned sequences of orthologous genes or proteins. Biological information density, or meaning, is defined vertically, that is, across an alignment of homologous sequences, rather than horizontally, that is, across a single genome. Sites with the lowest entropy have the highest biological information density, or in other words, are the most meaningful ones. The meaningfulness of genomic sequences spans the entire range from sharply defined universal meaning to effective meaninglessness. And that, to be honest, doesn't mean a whole lot. As a lawyer, I would draw your attention to the word relevant at the start of the passage. So this is from Kunin. So what he's trying to say is that the relevant information for some expression in genes is more meaningful rather than a function of entropy. The problem here is that relevant and meaningful are the same concept. There's no difference. So what we end up with is a tautology where we're looking for meaning in whatever we find meaning in. And that's where we end up with scientific realism. Yes, we can agree on a reality, and we can agree that there's information in reality, but we can't agree on what that means. And so we have to leave it there, and we'll come back next time and look at other ways of dealing with information and communication.